Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Leela Manjari Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev.
Please accept mine, all glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, maybe we can get started.
Yeah, I I put too many verses in. Anyway, so yes, so let's start with prayer.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Om Ajnana
Tirandasya Chananjana Salakaya Chakshu Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katadmayam Tadati Svapatantikam Vanchakapatrubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udurayat Nasta Prayasa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Okay, so we're in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, 32 through 34. We'll start by reading Gunat Mat Kanindriyani Uttadi Prabhava Gunaha Manasarva Vikat Ratma Buddhir Vijnan Rupini. Translation. The sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature, and the modes of material nature are products of the false ego. The mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of the mind's deliberation. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Illusion by the material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. More clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by the material body, he at once identifies with the bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. Mind is the instrument for feeling different material experiences, but intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for the better. The intelligent person, therefore, can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. An intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he is subjected to different kinds of miseries, and how to get rid of all miseries, and thus, by good association, an advanced, intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. It is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on this path of salvation. By such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter, and thus the intelligent man gradually gets rid of the illusion of matter and false ego, and is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So back to translation. The sense organs are attached to the modes of material nature. And the modes of material nature are products of false ego. The mind is subjected to all kinds of material experiences, happiness and distress, and the intelligence is the feature of the mind's deliberation. So we've been talking recently about the three interdependent factors, which are oh God, I need to go look. I forgot the three. Well, anyway, the three independent, which is the senses, which is the devas, and which is the soul proper. And so what we have here is that the soul proper, we've been told, is covered by three things, which is the false ego, mind, and intelligence. And beyond that, there are more coverings, which is the 5 different substances, which is air, ether, sky, fire, water, earth. And so as a soul, we're covered by all of this. And this, it says to begin with, illusioned by material nature, the living entity identifies with false ego. So that's the living identity, our entity, which is the soul. It identifies with the false ego. It does not know who it actually is. When it comes in contact with matter, the soul begins to identify with matter and thinking the body is the self, thinking that all that is around, all this material and matter that is around is mine. It's matter which I can lord over. And so as a living entity that is conditioned here in this material world, we are illusioned by this material nature. It says more clearly, when the living entity is entrapped by the material body, he at once identifies with bodily relationships, forgetting his own identity as spirit soul. This false ego associates with different modes of material nature, and thus the senses become attached to the modes of material nature. So how do we go through and experience all this matter? We need the senses. And when the senses are out exploring, what happens is they begin to become attached to the modes of material nature. And it says mind is the instrument for feeling different material experiences, but intelligence is deliberative and can change everything for the better. So as we're experiencing things through the senses, these experiences are imprinting our mind. And our mind, it says, is feeling, we've heard willing, etc. The three, yesterday was thinking, feeling, and thinking, feeling, and willing. Yes. Says that so the mind has, as the senses are going through these experiences are imprinted in the mind. It's kind of like I've heard it being explained to as almost like a TV screen, or like photos being imprinted upon, and samskars. And how does one change for the better? It's through intelligence. Says it's the deliberative. Intelligence is deliberative. It can move from this attachment to matter to something for the better, you know, detaching from this matter through the intelligence. And how does the intelligence actually help the mind detach? It says the intelligent person therefore can attain salvation from the illusion of material existence by proper use of intelligence. An intelligent person can detect the awkward position of material existence and thus begin to inquire as to what he is, why he's subjected to different kinds of miseries, and how to get rid of all miseries. And thus, by good association, an advanced intelligent person can turn towards the better life of self-realization. So through intelligence, through actually good association, the intelligence of the living entity can become sharpened, or actually it can be the tool that will help one turn towards self-realization. And what is the self-realization? It's when one begins to inquire what he is, you know, what his relationship to the Lord is, why is he subjected to these miseries. So it's through good association that our intelligence is sharpened, and through our intelligence, then good changes can occur. It says, it is advised, therefore, that an intelligent person associate with the great sages and saints who are on the path of salvation. So, through good association, and that could be a pure devotee, it could be also our acharyas, shastra. When we go and read and hear and take their words as instruction, then by such association, one can receive instructions which are able to slacken the conditioned soul's attachment for matter. So through this good association, it affects our intelligence, and from our intelligence, our mind is changed, and our attachments to matter lessen, and then the senses are no longer so attracted to material nature and matter. And so what happens through that whole process, false ego slowly disseminates, and our mind is now becomes attracted to the Lord Sri Krishna. And so all these good things, where does it all stem from? It all stems from good association. And from good association, things change for the better. And is promoted to the real life of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So I'm going to go into a couple verses that I had read, and it kind of furthers these ideas. Srimad Bhagavatam 7:245 says, in the body, the most important substance is the life air, but that also is neither the listener nor the speaker. Beyond even the life air, the soul also can do nothing, for the super soul is actually the director in cooperation with the individual soul. The super soul conducting the activities of the body is different from the body and living force. 46. The 5 material elements, the 10 senses, and the mind all combine to form the various parts of the gross and subtle bodies. The living entity comes in contact with his material bodies, whether high or low, and later gives them up by his personal prowess. This strength can be perceived in a living entity's personal power to possess different types of bodies. 47. As long as the spirit soul is covered by the subtle body, consisting of the mind, intelligence, and false ego, he is bound to the results of his fruitive activities. Because of this covering, the spirit soul is connected with the material energy and must accordingly suffer material conditions and reversals continually, life after life. 48. It is fruitless to see and talk of the material modes of nature and the resultant so-called happiness and distress as if they were factual. When the mind wanders during the day and a man begins to think himself extremely important, or when he dreams at night and sees a beautiful woman enjoying with him, these are merely false dreams. Similarly, the happiness and distress caused by the material senses should be understood to be meaningless. So what we have here is just a reiteration that these 5 material senses, the mind and all, is what forms the gross and subtle bodies. And this, these bodies are, these material elements are covering the soul. And because the soul is connected with this material energy, it's attracted to it through contact by the senses. The living entity is going to suffer material conditions, life after life. And through 48, we hear that this is as if a dream. So what we're doing is, you know, this false ego, this mind, and this material world that we're walking through life after life, it's actually likened to a dream. And the happiness and distress that is coming along with experiences that we're having within this material energy is meaningless. Then I have 2. Okay, so then I went to Bhagavad Gita 254, and Arjun is asking, what are the symptoms? He's asking Krishna, what is the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? So this mind of ours is contaminated as we're here in this material world. It's because of contact with matter and the senses interacting, you know, our consciousness is, because we're desiring to enjoy apart from the Lord. And so our consciousness is contaminated. So Arjun is then asking, what is the symptom of those whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? Like, how does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? How does he walk? And Supreme Personality of Godhead says in 255, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So what is keeping us in this contaminated consciousness is our desire for sense gratification. 256. He continues, one who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called the sage of steady mind. 257. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it or despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. One who is able, 258. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within its shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. I want to read the purport for that one. It says, the test of a devotee or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses, and thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi, or the devotee, must be very strong to control the serpents, like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do not, some are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and do nots, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up its senses and exhibit them again at any time for a particular purpose. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise, who keeps the senses within. So here I'm hearing that that if we learn to withdraw our senses from the sense objects, as a tortoise draws its limbs from the shell, we can fix our mind in perfect consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness. And going a step further, dovetailing our senses for the service and satisfaction of the Lord. That's going to bring us into and keep us in this perfect consciousness. Let me continue on. I just wanted to read a couple more before I go on. 259. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. While contemplating the object, okay, so I don't want to go any further than that. So here we go. We're being told to withdraw the senses from objects of sense enjoyment and to use them in the service of the Lord, fix our mind on the Lord, and this will help us. This is someone who fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Back to the intelligence that we were talking about just recently in 1032, where it says that it's this intelligent person that by his proper use of intelligence can, and good association, can turn towards self-realization, to learn his proper position, who he is, what his relationship to Krishna is, what is his, what's his purpose, actually, to serve the Lord. So here we've got, I'm going to continue on now with the next verse. 2:10:33. Etad bhagavato rupam stulam te vyahritan mai adibis kavaranair astabir bahir avritam. Translation. Thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms such as those of planets, which were explained to you by me. And so I believe this is a conversation between Sukadev Goswami and King Parikshit. I'm not sure, but purport. As explained by as explained in Bhagavad Gita 7:4, the separated material energy of the personality of Godhead is covered by the 8 kinds of material coverings: earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these are emanations from the personality of Godhead as his external energy. Those coverings are just like the coverings of the clouds for the sun. The cloud is a creation of the sun, yet it actually covers the eyes so that one cannot see the sun. The sun cannot be covered by the clouds. The cloud can at utmost extend a few hundreds of miles in the sky, but the sun is far greater than millions of miles. So a 100-mile covering is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord. But these coverings are created by him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over material nature. Actually, the conditioned souls are covered by this illusory creative cloud of matter, and the Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes. Because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the Lord and the transcendental form of the Lord. The covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with a poor fund of knowledge, and how this is so is explained in the following verse. So here we have, back to the translation, thus, by all this, the external feature of the personality of Godhead is covered by gross forms such as those of planets, which were explained to you by me. So back to the elements. There's 8 different kinds of material coverings, and all of these are emanations of the Lord. These are all his external energy. And so Srila Prabhupada brings to mind a metaphor, and he says that, so there's the sun, likened to Krishna, and the sun is big, powerful, and yet there's the cloud. And at times when the living entity will look up to the sun, the sun, which is big and powerful, appears to be covered. And so he's looking up there, the cloud is in the way, it's obstructing the view. It's not that the sun is no longer there and all that exists is the cloud or matter, the material covering. It's that as he looks up there, there's an obstruction. And so Srila Prabhupada says, you know, the sun is like millions of miles long or wide or whatever, and the cloud is only a few hundred miles. The cloud is not competent to cover millions of miles. Therefore, one of the various energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot, of course, cover the Lord. But these coverings are created by him to cover the eyes of the conditioned souls who want to lord it over material nature. So the Lord, just like the sun, he's always there. He's the cause of all causes. He is, you know, from him comes all the material energy. But because of us being conditioned, because we have desire to enjoy apart from him, he reserves the right of not being exposed to their eyes. So he's there, but because we don't have the eyes, because we want to be apart from him, he gives that to us. And thus, what happens is that, you know, we're an illusion. We're an illusion, you know, with this false ego. It's not, you know, it's filtering what's really there. It's like that cloud that's up there. It's, you know, it's not allowing us to actually see what is there. And he reserves the right, just like we are acting on the right of our free will to act and enjoy separately from him. But really, enjoying separately from the Lord is temporary and flickering and not really, it's not satisfying. You know, it leaves one to continually look for more and more and more enjoyment. You know, you get a little speck here and you get a little speck there, and you're just like running after it here in this material world, but it's not going to fill that hole within our heart. The hole within our heart is looking for our relationship with Krishna, and looking for the love that he has for us. And we're trying to fill it with matter, which is not going to fill that hole. It says, because they have no eyes of transcendental vision, and because they cannot see the personality of Godhead, they therefore deny the existence of the Lord and the transcendental form of the Lord. So those who are very covered, their their false ego is predominating them, to the point where they don't even begin to question. They're denying even the existence of the Lord. It says the covering of the gigantic material feature is accepted by such men with poor fund of knowledge, and how this is so is explained in the following verse. So I just wanted to talk about how having these eyes of transcendental vision, being trained as a ESL, English for Second Language Learners, we get a little bit, teacher, we get a little bit of background on, language and how languages differ. And and in the Eskimo culture, language, they have like 8 different words for the word snow. We have snow, and then we have like sleet, which is snow with water, and we have hail, which is like solidified balls of snow. But that's the extent of what we have. But because they're focusing, because Eskimos are in, they're in this very cold tundra type of area where their life depends on understanding the snow that's around them, snow that will drift, blow away, snow that will pack, snow that will, all these different ways that snow can act. They have all these different words for that. And so their eyes are attuned to snow and the different variations, where, what we as devotees, we need to attune our eyes to that which is around us. And going beyond matter, we need to be looking for Krishna in our lives, in the way that he manifests. At this point, we're conditioned, and so we're not going to see him. Well, I'm not. I'm so conditioned. I'm not going to see him standing in front of me. But we need to train ourselves to be looking for him in our life. And he at this point, he comes in different ways. He comes through the mouth of the devotees. He comes as we read and search for different answers and things that our heart is pulling us to try to understand, through Shastra, through the Acharya's words. Even in our colleagues and our families, Krishna appears, and in the different opportunities and different experiences that are coming to us. he's presenting himself to us. So we need to, as we are covered beings, we need to look beyond just the material experience, and we need to sift through and develop these eyes, develop our intellect, so that we can understand, so that we can see beyond. That cloud's going to be there, but that cloud is not always there. The sun is always there in our experience, and so we need to develop our eyes. We need to use our senses in the service of the Lord. We can use everything, dovetail all our resources in the service of the Lord. Okay, so continuing on to, my computer will move, to 210:34. Ata param suksmatamam avyaktam nirvisheshanam anadi madhya nirhanam nityam van manasa param. Translation. Therefore, beyond this gross manifestation is a transcendental manifestation finer than the finest form. It has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Therefore, it is beyond the limits of expression or mental speculation, and it is distinct from the material conception. Purport. The gross external body of the Supreme is manifested at different intervals, and thus the external feature or form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not the eternal form of the Lord, which has no beginning, no intermediate stage, and no end. Anything which has a beginning, interim, and end is called material. The material world is begun from the Lord, and thus the form of the Lord before the beginning of the material world is certainly transcendental to the finest or to the finer material conception. The ether in the material world is considered to be the finest. Finer than the ether is mind, intelligence, and false ego. But all 8 of the outward coverings are explained as outer coverings of the absolute truth. The absolute truth is therefore beyond the expression of speculation of the material conception. He is certainly transcendental to all material conceptions. This is called nirvisheshanam. One should not, however, misunderstand nirvisheshanam as being without any transcendental qualifications. Visheshanam means qualities. Therefore, nir, added to it, means that he has no material qualities or variegatedness. This nullifying expression is described in 4 transcendental qualifications, namely unmanifested, transcendental, eternal, and beyond the conception of mind or word. Beyond the limits of words means negation of the material conception. Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to know the transcendental form of the Lord. So I want to talk about this, and then I've got a couple other verses if I have time. So this gross external body of the Lord is manifested at certain intervals. We're talking about the manifestation and the dissolution. So at different intervals, we're going to, this external body of the Lord, gross external body, meaning the material world, will come manifest. But it's to be known that this external form is not the eternal form of the Lord. It's temporary. The eternal form of the Lord, Krishna himself, has no beginning. He has no middle, and he has no end. Anything that has a beginning, a middle, and an end is material. It's influenced by time. But Krishna, all his associates, abode itself, Goloka Vrindavan, all those being not material, they don't have beginning, middle, or ends. They are eternal, and they do not have time. Does not exist. The in Goloka Vrindavan, the gopis that are serving the Lord, they have specific ages, and these ages, like, you know, maybe 13 or 16 or whatever, but they remain within that age. They do not grow older. And so it says, where was I? Did I but 8 of these? So here it goes. The material world is begun from the Lord, and thus the form of the Lord from the beginning of the material world is certainly transcendental to the finest, to the finer material conception. So within this material world of the 5 elements, ether is the finest, and even finer than that is the mind, intelligence, and false ego. But all of these are to be considered outer coverings of the absolute truth. The Lord is considered to be nirvisheshanam, which is one who has no material qualities. And so let me go back, and that was 34. I'm going to go to 7 to 48 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it talks about, where's that? 26. This is 26. Oh no, 8, 5, 20. I don't know. I kind of like mixed up here a little bit, as always. So I'm going to read the translation. It says, "It is fruitless to see and talk about the material modes of nature and their resultant so-called happiness and distress as if they were factual. When the mind wanders during the day and a man begins to think of himself as extremely important, or when he dreams at night and sees a beautiful woman enjoying with him, these are all merely false dreams. Similarly, the happiness and distress caused by the material senses should be understood to be meaningless." And let's see, when our senses, okay, it says, when our senses are purified of material contamination, they become atindriya, transcendental senses. And when the transcendental senses are engaged in the service of the master of the senses, Hrishikesha, one can derive real transcendental pleasure. Whatever distress or happiness we manufacture by mental concoction through the subtle mind has no reality, but is simply a mental concoction. One therefore should not imagine so-called happiness through mental concoction. Rather, the best course is to engage the mind in the service of the Lord, Hrishikesha, and thus feel real blissful life. So when we learn, like the tortoise, to retract our senses, and when we learn to control our mind, when we learn what our position, we start clearing up that the misconceptions that are the substance of our false ego. When those things happen, when our senses and our mind are purified from this material contamination, we then are awarded what is called atindriya, or transcendental senses. And these senses are, unlike the indriya, which is just regular plain material senses, these atindriya which are senses that are engaged in the service of the master of senses, Hrikesha, that's when we can derive real transcendental pleasure. So this you know, as we look up to the sun or we look for Krishna and the cloud is obstructing our view, or our material conceptions and our attraction to matter is, and our misunderstanding of who we are, when all that is in the way, obstructing our view, then what do we need? Going back to what I had said at the for the first of the three verses is we need to sharpen our intellect. And how is that done? It's done through association. And association means, you know, we're talking about pure souls as well as the Shastra and the previous acharyas. And when we are taking the intellect, when the intellect is directing us towards Krishna, and all these things that I've just mentioned are beginning to make transformation, then this these transcendental senses, these atindriya, are going to be developed. And that is when, like the Eskimo that has such discrimination for snow, that is when our eyes are going to, in our mind and our experience, we're going to have the discrimination, and we're going to be able to begin seeing Krishna in our lives and ultimately be able to see his beautiful form. And so that's pretty much what I got from this. And sorry if I went from place to place. I was trying to like get those ideas together at the end, and hopefully they made some sense. So please add, correct, question.
Thank you, Manasi Ganga Mataji, for talking about the senses. And it almost seems impossible, but to at least understand the importance of being, like, you know, the importance of controlling the senses through the intelligence. So I appreciated that point. Yeah, very far from the goal, but at least theoretically appreciate.
Yeah, I agree myself. Very far from the goal, but I just think that that it's all there. It's all there for us, and it's just us turning ourselves and desiring to know, and through that desire and through that search, it'll happen. That's all I could say. It's there. It's in the Shastra. The acharyas, you know, all these self-realized souls have offered all this. Srila Prabhupada, they've offered it to us. It's our, you know, it's in our hands, and it's whether we want it enough. Yeah, and slowly, you know, the more we come to see Krishna in our life, the more he exposes himself, the more we're attracted. And the more we're attracted, the more we see him. It's just like this cycle. Like, you know, he reciprocates. We desire, we search, he's there. And then because he's there and so attractive, we desire more. So we just gotta I have to, I just have to rev that motor, the machinery a little bit faster, you know, because it's available. It's far, but available.
Yes, Mataji, thank you for adding that line of hope, because I think that's very important to remember. Sometimes we tend to forget in the illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, association. That's what it's all about. You know,
I have a question.
Yes, Mataji?
So
Hare Krishna?
yes, I mean, it is not so much in the context, but I was just thinking that, you know, like how the senses are to be controlled, but then also the senses, through the senses, only one can express love through the faculty of speech, through the faculty of like touch or the eyes, and love is something spontaneous, and so that was unconditional love, which was taught mostly by Krishna's example, that you know he loved without, like, it was a transcendental love that he had for the gopis and for Mother Yashoda, but like if it is spontaneous, then it is it has to come within from the heart, and that shouldn't be like always like what we say is like this is right or this is wrong, but ultimately the power of love is the greatest, like that is what is the essence of all religiosity, which sometimes we don't like I don't understand. It's like that is the essence of the whole of religion, that one should learn to love unconditionally, and so that is always spontaneous. So maybe we can, because that is not something that one can control or like. So that is something if you can add more to that, maybe.
Yes. I had read something today, not related to this, that was talking about how someone who is aspiring to serve the Lord, and this love, this spontaneous love, how he also needs to be guided by Shastra. So this spontaneous love is what, it's the impetus that we're talking about, and how if someone is just following the rules of I didn't read it where I would think I would need to talk about it, so let me just think. Like someone who just follows the rules and regs and is expecting love of Godhead to come. There's a difference between that person and someone who is responding in relationship to the Lord, but is guided by rules and regulations. See, someone who's in, the Raganuga path is he's spurred by his desire to please the Lord, and through his desire, he's trying to express it through his, through his senses, through his mind. But he will continue to follow the rules, and he will continue to access Shastra and those around him, because this guidance is ultimately, you go to someone who has this love to get that love. Like, if you're just doing it whimsically by yourself, yes, you might be responding to what, you're talking about, how, love is spontaneous, just in itself, it's spontaneous. But in that spontaneity, there also needs to be, like, if you don't know what the goal is, this love can become misdirected. And so, and so these two paths, the Vaidya and the Raganuga path, they're both ultimately going to meet in the spiritual world. But someone who's on the Raganuga path is being pulled by their desire to serve the Lord, and it's coming, it's the impetus. The difference is the impetus, where it's like internally, where someone who's on the Vaidya path is externally being directed towards the Lord. But even so, if one is on the Raganuga path and internally being drawn towards service to the Lord, there also needs to be an external guidance from Shastra, etc. So I don't know if that is addressing your question at all. It seemed to be what I was reading, in the book that I was reading. But is that what you were making reference to, like spontaneous love, being that, love is coming from the heart? And so you're saying that, like, this Vaidya path, where people tell you how to love the Lord, or how to serve the Lord, and all these different rules and regs, you're saying that differs from what your perspective is, where love, you're saying, should be internal first. And I'm just adding that maybe that's so. Different people are guided to the Lord differently. But I'm also saying that one should always be guided also by Shastra and liberated souls. I don't know. So you're going to have to respond to tell me if that had anything to do with what you were saying.
Yeah, it was something like this only. I was just trying to say that love is something that comes from the heart, and that is the essence of the soul. And it like when people or when it is like it is like the rules and regulations are all okay, but what Krishna was, I think, trying to also show us was that also, like, transcendental love is not bound by such rules and regulations, because it is like coming from the heart, coming directly from the soul, which he had for gopis, which he had for Mother Yashoda, which he had for his other friends, and for Arjun, and for whom as a friend he fought, like, also to establish righteousness. Then he like literally became his charioteer, so that out of love, so that love is not like any way in his life, it is not any way following any rules and regulations, it is coming from the heart, and he and he like setting an example of how to like follow it, but that is also misunderstood if it is not bound by rules and regulations. I think so. You are correct.
So those are pure souls. Everyone you've talked about, the gopis, the gopas, the Mother Yashoda, they are eternal servants of the Lord, and they are eternally pure and eternally have been serving the Lord. Now, I am fallen. I am here in this world because I have desires that are different than the Lord. And so, yes, I also agree that love for Krishna is like is that is what should be the thing that is driving my my desire. Like my desire should be coming from, I want to serve the Lord because the Lord is the Lord, not because of the rules and regs, but because I'm eternally because I'm conditioned. I'm in the conditioned state right now. Although I agree with what you're saying, and that's what's driving me. You know, I believe that love for the Lord is what should be driving me. And people are different, but I also know that I'm conditioned, and I'm, you know, so many lifetimes I've been, you know, here, there, and everywhere, and so I need to fuse the two of them together in my search for Krishna. It's got to come from within, but then I have to be checked from without, meaning Shastra, Guru, association. So it's a combination of, for me, it's a combination of both. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's the distinction is that I'm not the pure soul. I'm not Mother Yashoda. I'm not Srimati Radharani. I've had desires that are different than serving the Lord, and I'm here, and so I'm not, and I'm not purified enough to just rely on this desire to serve the Lord, because my mind is distracted and my senses are distracted all the time. And so I have to, for me, I have to continue, you know, it's this plan that Srila Prabhupada gave us is got me to a point where I want the Lord, but it also has to continue taking me there. But within my heart, like I'm desiring it more on my own, but it has to be guided. It's like, you know, I got to be checked, or I'm just going to end up possibly on another 40,000 lives. So I don't know, just until I'm pure, until I'm on the Bhava stage and end up born of a gopi, the womb of a gopi, I need to also, you know, it's got to be two things. It's got to be my own desire to serve the Lord, as well as, you know, what the acharyas are, because they're there. They know it. And so wouldn't it be foolish, don't we say that, you know, there's different ways of learning. There's some that can just, you know, watch someone and learn from that. There's someone that can hear. There's someone that has to go through the actual negative experience to learn. Like, so it's going to, it's more expedient to take the Shastra and the Acharya's words along with my own desire and move forward.
Manasi Ganga Mataji, very, very well spoken and explained. Sometimes we have to hear this over and over again. Otherwise, as Ruchi Mataji expressed, the desire is to keep going on the spontaneous platform and then we end up somewhere else. So, I mean, it's so helpful to hear this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, thank you,
Ruchi Mataji, I'm not sure if I have.
Yes, it was really nice answer, Mataji. It really helped a lot this time.
Okay, I guess it's just the three of us. Is there anybody else on the phone? I think it's the three of us. Okay, so now Ruchi Mataji, I'm just trying to take some helpful clues for the schedule. Do you have any other suggestions? Because I want to get better at the service. And I was just taking, my own experience as a teacher and trying to but if you have any suggestions on how to determine how much to put in each, sometimes I'm just worried that that if we put too little on the plate for someone to read and for us to kind of massage and try to understand, then it's not giving us the meat. That's sorry using that expression. It's just part of my language vocabulary. It's not the.
Yeah, I think it's perfect because you also include references from where to read and the lectures to hear and talk about those. Even if it's little, one can talk a lot about those if you you include it. Or many times, yes, I especially don't get I mean, I'm trying to read more what you send, but sometimes it is not enough. Time is not enough. For one purport, I think, or if it is a small one, then two purports are more than enough because we had also discussed that we should discuss about practical applications of some of the purports that we read and how we can apply it in our daily lives and how to become more God conscious with the materials that we read about. So there is hardly any time left for discussion if the purports are too long. So that's all I have to ask. But apart from that, your thing is you work very hard. I see it, Mataji. So thanks a lot for that. You work very hard to get us to that level where we can attend the Bhagavad classes with so much of interest because you send so much of reference materials to read and lectures to hear, which many times I can't hear and read, but still you make a lot of effort. Thanks a lot for that.
And so I'm just also looking at who I assign it to, meaning Prabhala, she's very quiet. And so, and Pramanjali, after, both of those, after the two of them, read it, they talk for just a few minutes and then, because of their shyness or whatever the situation is. So do you think that, I think that what it leaves us all to do is we all need to be participants then, because I know at one point in time, someone would read, they would give, a short little summary, and then that would be the end, And
in that case, we can all participate and we all can join in the discussion and we all can tell us or tell more about our thoughts on that particular word. So that always helps because Mataji said that every devotee has a lot to add from their personal experiences and we can learn a lot from each other's experiences and perspectives, how everybody has different perspective to that same verse. So if we hear more from different people, devotees about what their perspective about the verses, then it's even better and it's even more informative because we can read it on our own, but thing is to like get other people's viewpoints and to learn more about their aspect of God consciousness from a particular verse. So that is what is very enlightening. So that is what the Bhagavatam class is very good at. Like what I think it's really informative is when people share about like how that particular verse, how they approach God consciousness according to their perspective from that particular verse. So that is very enlightening.
Okay, I'll try to slim it down. But then what it does is it tips the balance beam where everybody needs to just be more participatory. And so when you're on and if someone's read the one verse and there's not much more that person really has to say about it, then it comes into our laps to add to that. So okay, so thank you. I've got to go now because I actually there's devotees in town and Friday nights we meet. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Hey, Manasi Ganga Mataji, new association ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for participating.